Welcome to The Green Rush, a podcast about the business of cannabis. On a weekly basis, hosts Ann Donahoe and Louis Goldberg talk with the CEOs, politicians, and cultural icons driving the cannabis industry forward. This week, however, producer Nick Opich will pinch hit for Louis while he's off hosting a panel discussion at this week's Green Market Summit. More on that in a future episode. Today, Ann and Nick speak with Tim Blake, one of the earliest pioneers in the cannabis industry. Tim created and has continued to produce the popular cultivation contest, the Emerald Cup, for the past 15 years. For those who don't know, the Emerald Cup is the premier event for medical marijuana cultivators while advancing the concept of sustainable outdoor farming. Tim's history with cannabis goes back decades, making him one of the now rare entrepreneurs who's been in cannabis from the illicit market through today's legal industry. Don't sit back, lean forward. And now, on to our interview with Tim Blake.
Thank you so much for joining us, Tim. So, can you tell our listeners in your own words, what is the Emerald Cup? Where is it? What is it? And how can people participate?
The Emerald Cup is the largest cannabis competition, organic, in the world. And it's the 15th year. It started up here in Mendocino County at Area 101, my Camp County Event Center. It's now based in Sonoma County at the fairgrounds there in Santa Rosa. And it's December 15th and 16th this year. It's gone from 200 people to 30,000 in 15 years, and
wow.
from a dozen entries to 1,000.
And is it all California?
It's all in California. Yes, we had drop-off locations throughout California the last couple of years.
So, how did you ever get this thing set up to begin with? You know, you've been doing it. This is going to be your 15th year. This seems like an extraordinarily large thing to kick off back. What was that? 2004 to just get started. What was that like?
I'm 61, so I grew up really enjoying the county fairs, just traditional fairs, and the friendly competitions and the sights and smells. And so we were sitting around and talking about it, and we really wanted to do that. And we just decided to go for it. At that point, High Times was still in Amsterdam. There was nobody who would even think of doing something like this. And we just went for it. We disguised it as a birthday party, and we didn't even put a poster out. The first and third winners didn't even show up to get their awards. We still have them, which is a good fortune for us because they were afraid, and people were mostly in mass, and most people were betting that we'd get arrested before the night was over.
Well, that was my question. So how did you do it? Was it just under the cover of darkness? And, how did you get away with it?
Well, my place is in the northern part of Mendocino County. It's right on the highway, but it's in the boonies. So there's not a lot of law enforcement up here. We didn't have posters out, so nobody knew what we were doing. It wasn't until the next year that law enforcement was aware of what we were doing. And then the third year where it kind of came to a little bit of a head, but they just stood back and allowed it. And it was, I'm looking back on it now. I mean, they could have come in and really made a scene out of it, but I think they were so bewildered they didn't know what to do, so they let it go.
So can you just take us a little further back in your history in the cannabis world? I mean, you've been in the business, black market and gray market, green market for decades. So, what were you doing before then? And, has the Emerald Cup kind of taken over your business front, in the cannabis world? Or do you still have your hand in other endeavors? What's your journey like, and what are you doing now?
Well, I was a hyperactive kid, and thankfully I wasn't given Ritalin or something like that. I found cannabis in the 7th grade. And it was a miracle for me. And that led to me starting to, deal small amounts beginning in high school. My family moved from San Jose to Capitola near Santa Cruz on the beach in Santa Cruz County. And my family bought an old bar right in downtown. And all of a sudden the barn went up, and my mom had a gallery, and we were representing all the local people. And they were all starting to smoke cannabis, and I was getting all the cannabis out of my parents' drawers and everywhere I could. And some of the local kids that were maybe 20 years old that were dealing thought that I would say if something happened, maybe my dad would take care of them. And so I started dealing pretty good by the time I was 15, 16. And, getting a kilo, back then they were kilo, and we were selling lids. You'd get a kilo, which would be 2.2 pounds, and you'd make 32 ounces up to sell at school. And then you'd get, 3 or 4 extra ones for the weekend. And I'd go to school on a Friday and sell 32 lids and keep it 3 or 4. And we would go to the bottom of this bar, which had a pool table. And I lived in the old keg room with black lights. So I had black lights in the keg room. We'd all crawl in there. We thought that if we closed it up and there was no air in there and we breathed that air, we'd get higher. I'm surprised that was out. We'd go in there with the black lights and the walls going, and we'd smoke 20 joints and try not to pass out. But it was a fun thing. It was really innocent. And from there, it really grew into a larger business. Very quickly, cannabis, started being brought in, 100,000 pound loads from Asia, and large amounts of hash and whatnot. And then from South America also. So I became one of those guys that, if you brought a 100,000 pound load in and 4 people got 25,000 pounds and maybe 4 or 5 people got 4 or 5,000 pounds and then 4 or 5 got 1,000 pounds, I was kind of one of those guys. So I started doing that in my early 20s and watched that whole business evolve through the late 80s and from the late 70s and early 80s. And it was a flourishing business, and it was wonderful. There were no weapons. Nobody robbed anybody. We were all making money. It was all pretty much set up, and it was interesting because you had the different families and factions. You had the Jewish people doing their thing, and you had the Italians coming off the boats, and then you had the surfer hippie kids, and pretty much you worked for one or the other. And I was fortunate that I really worked for all of them, and knew people throughout the industry and could kind of work the different loads. And so I did quite a bit of work back then. And then one day, am I going past my minute here?
No, you're good.
No,
you're good.
You're
This
good.
is fascinating.
Well, and so then one day a friend of mine came in, and he was connected to the Big Sur people, the Big Sur holy weed and whatnot. And he showed me a jar which became known later as the Magic, the Chronic, the Grease, 3 names back in the 80s. It was the first super pot. And he said, it was the Frostest. I've never seen anything like it. And it was twice as strong as anything. I think it'd probably be stronger in the OGs and everything today. But he said, we're going to all be growing under those lights you see like in Safeways within 2 years, because they're going to bust all the loads over the next 2 years. And we're all going to have to start growing indoors. And nobody had ever heard of indoor at the time. And I looked at him like he was out of his mind. I mean, I had 1,000 pounds in my garage. I was thinking, really? I bought everything he had on him. And I had to pay twice what anybody would pay for anything because nobody had ever seen anything like that. And a year and a half later, I had to go back and beg for that clone. And you had to give up a third of your crop for 6 crops. You couldn't cut one of the clones to sell, or they'd come and, pummel you and beat you senseless. And I had to cave in and go get that because they took out, if you go back, look historically between 84 and 87, they took out about 15 loads in the Bay Area and the West Coast. They busted them all, about 100 to 200,000 pound loads. And everybody went into those shops and into those garages and started growing indoors, or came up into the Emerald Triangle and started growing. Now, I came up in the Emerald Triangle here in 1979, my first year up here, and we were growing cannabis. I mean, most of it was being brought in from, the Thai sticks and all the Colombian, South American. But there was a small market for locally grown cannabis up here, but it wasn't that big in the 70s. It really blew up after they took all those loads out and there wasn't any more international product coming in. And that was really the beginning of indoor and really the beginning of the large scale outdoor up here in the Emerald Triangle.
So as like a legit drug dealer, at least back in the day of what it was, like how is this last year in California, like has it just blown your mind? Like now that everything's legal, everybody can just go and buy whenever they want. Like how has your perspective changed on the industry in this last year?
Well, I voted for 64 under the guys that we had to stop having people go to prison and we need to get cost effective access to medicine. I thought we'd have a 3 to 5 year rollout where small farmers and product makers would have a chance to survive until, they were really overrun by the big business people. But with opening up large scale farming a month after 64 went in and shutting down the home manufacturing, and water boards and fish and game coming in so heavily onto the farmers up here. It's great to see that my 90-year-old uncle from the Bay Area has got access to cannabis, and I'm bringing it to him. He's a priest. He's been a priest for 50 years, and it's great that my family and everybody's families now feel comfortable to let that happen. So I'm glad that happened, and the gauntlet up here in Mendocino isn't anymore. Nobody's getting busted on the roads anymore. So that's all really good. But there's really like an extinction event happening with, a lot of the farmers and cultivators and product makers up here in the Triangle and around the state, because the fish and game and water boards are coming in and shutting people down. I don't know if you've heard in Humboldt, they're giving $10,000 fines out left and right, or more, $20,000 a day fines for not shutting down. And they're going to places like Panther Gap and Salmon Creek, and they're putting out 30 or 40 of these notices. So they're really, there's more for sale signs for, property in Mendocino and Humboldt than ever before. And we were talking about how many people would actually make it through to this new world and be successful. So it's really a double-edged sword there. I'm so excited about where the industry is growing. I'm so excited about the access for medicine and the lack of people going to prison, and going across the country and the world with cannabis. But seeing that where it started, that spark, and so many of these, older families that have been here for years and decades doing that aren't going to really make it to the promised land. It's almost like it's on Moses, they got it all the way there, but they're not going to participate in that. And so, it's hard on the one side and great on the other.
So are you, as Nick said, this year must have been, very different for you, but, you're not that guy that's sitting back and taking a nap and being like, oh, we did that, it's done. You seem to believe that there is still so much more to be done. Can you talk about that a little?
Well, yeah. Well, about 3 years ago, I had a friend come and say, you're not making any money in the cup because I know you give it away, and you don't make any money in the black market because you're too public. Why don't we start going and making products? And we spent about 6 months and started looking at what that meant. And that really, to me, meant oil. It meant extracts. It meant going into products. And so we really saw that, and we started doing genetic research to get the right terpene profiles and the right strains. And we developed a series of companies, and I bought a manufacturing plant in Willits that we got a Type 7 on. And so we've been very proactive, and we've really built a vertically integrated system so that we have permitted farms, permitted nurseries, permitted, we have our own strains, we have our manufacturing, we have our products and distribution. So we're going to do quite well ourselves because I was really, able to see that come in. But, it's, I tried with the cup. We've been trying all these years telling people, you're going to need to do organic, high-grade medicine to be able to hold that niche because, of course, in the alcohol industry, the fastest-growing part of the industry is the high end. It's the microbreweries, the wine, the spirits, and whatnot. And $2 Chuck's going to take all that from the cannabis world from all the big-scale farming in San Joaquin Valley and Central Valley. So the farmers up here have to find their niche. And so that's what we've really been trying to teach them is how to really get to the highest end of the market and get their niche and be able to come out. But, people up here in these mountains, they're quiet, introverted people who are not really built for, tooting their horn and social media and going out and getting their 15 minutes of fame. That's really not who many of us were, and so there's a whole different way of marketing and branding and bringing a product forth. And now the people that are more boisterous and loud, look, Brandon from Third Gen, all these people that can just, shout out and do that are really the beneficiaries of this. So, it's just an amazing thing to have watched and seen. And, but we were proactive, working quite well.
So are you seeing among, the farming community, is there still resistance to, these bigger companies with these big investors? We're talking big from a relative term in cannabis world. Are they embracing that, or are they still saying, this is my farm, this is my livelihood, I want to grow the way I want to grow, I don't want to scale, I just want to do my stuff? Is that still the prevailing feeling there, or is there almost this, embracing of the legitimizing of their industry?
you got 1,000 applications in Mendocino County out of probably 7,000 or 8,000 cultivators. So it's really only about 10%. I think even less in Humboldt. I think a lot of people up here thought they'd get a couple more years on the black market. It used to be you had to go out and fly a plane or a chopper to come out and find a crop, and then do a lot of labor-intensive stuff to get the warrants and come out and then do a bust. Now Fish and Game and water boards just do Google Map. And they just find your crop, and you'll notice, go to your gate, $10,000 or $20,000 a day fine. You go to your tax, building, and you find out you've got $100,000 in fines within 1 week, and you shut down pretty quick. So a lot of those people that they would get that are now finding out that's not true. And so, we've been advocating for 15 years that it was going to go legal eventually, that you really needed to step your game up. A lot of people up here were able to make a pretty good living growing a product that wasn't that good because of the black market and going back east. I mean, if you didn't grow something that well, you could still sell it when it dried out in the summertime and get good dollars for it. So there wasn't really the incentive to really become a high-end farmer. It was really more for people making money, getting bulk and making the money and moving on. Humboldt had a lot more of an opportunity to do large-scale farming. They really didn't pick on Humboldt much in the last 10 years. Mendocino, they've really beaten us up. And so we've had to become better cultivators because we can't grow as much. At one point, a couple of years back, 25% of the entries were from Mendocino County, and 75% of the winners were from here. And very few were coming from Trinity or Humboldt at that time.
So I want to touch on something that you've kind of briefly brought up in two separate topics here. You're talking about all the work that the farmers are doing in the collective there, and then you're talking about everything, the relationships with the police officers. And part of your history in cannabis is through the community organizing. You're known for doing one of the first gatherings of law enforcement with cannabis farmers to openly discuss how they can work together. Can you talk about just building that bridge, I guess, between these two diametrically opposite, ends of this cannabis sector?
Well, Pebbles Trippett, who's a lifelong, activist and got herself arrested to secure the right for us to move medicinal cannabis in vehicles, came to me and said, Tim, you're the Emerald Cup. You're right here in the heart of the Emerald Triangle. I'd like to sponsor the sheriff's debates, and for the first time in the world, bring together law enforcement and cannabis farmers to figure out how we can live together. And my brother was captain of Watsonville PD. I've got 3 cousins that were cops. My uncle was a cop. I got lawyers in my family, priests. And I don't come from here. I'm from the Bay Area. And so originally. And so I thought, this is a good thing because this is what we have to do. We have to spark this conversation, get it going, and this is the way we're gonna change the world in this country. So we did that at my place at Area 101. We had 4 sheriff candidates come up. It went so well. We had about 400 people there that day that we did the runoff that came through with Sheriff Broyne and Tom Allman. We got Tom Allman elected, who's still our sheriff to this day. And then the DA candidates wanted to do that, and they came up. So in the course of, and we had the runoff there too. So in the course of about a few months, we had 4 major gatherings with law enforcement and the district attorney's office. It was the first time in this country that had been done. And it really paved the way a couple years later for us to do a program called the 9.31 program, which was the first program where you could grow up to 100 plants legally in full sun with a permit from the sheriff's department in the county. And that went from 12 people to almost 100 the second year. And it was about to take over all of Northern California. Every other county was going to join in with us. And I said, either the DA is going to come in, the DEA is either going to come in and bust this, so they're going to have to stand back because we're about to take over. And they came in and busted the program. Tom Allman came on and did a public broadcast interview press release where he showed that they had pictures of large cartel grows going on. They were getting for the DEA, and they didn't use those and go bust those. They came and busted his people that were supporting his program. And what they did was they said, well, yeah, and if you give another permit out, we'll arrest the DA, the supervisors, county council, all. And so they got to find out what it was like. In fact, Randy Johnson, who was the sheriff that came in and took the program over for Tom, because none of the sheriffs wanted to do it, he came in and said, look, I didn't want to do this. Tom begged me to do it. Nobody would take it. All I know about you guys is bust you, take your pot down, put you in jail. A year later, he was teaching us how to look more like the vineyards. And we'd say, gosh, Randy, what do we look like? Because he was looking at everybody's farms. And he'd go, you need to do some of this. And we go, oh, man. And Randy had become the expert guiding us on how to make better farms. And when it came down and they did all those busts, Randy said, now I know what it's like for you to live with this, because I lie there at night with my wife wondering if the feds are going to come bust us. And so that was a revolutionary thing. And without taking too much credit for our county and our community, that really was well before Colorado and Washington. It really spearheaded the whole movement in this country. It really opened up all the doors. And then we had to kind of recede back into the woodwork, and Colorado and Washington went legal, and then it was off the races. But people don't remember that after Colorado and Washington went legal, 8 former heads of the DEA pushed Obama to rescind that and not allow it to go legal. And it turned out that 2 of those people were running the largest drug testing companies in the country. And so under the United Nations. So they really pushed back. But at that point, there was no turning back. So I was really, really proud of that. And that was really a great moment. The other thing that happened was that Tom Almond came in, and I asked if I could do a dispensary at Area 101 called Medicinal Farmers Collective, because we wanted to help outdoor bud get into the markets down in the dispensaries, because most of it was indoor. And he said yes, but he had to go talk to camp and the DEA about it. And he, through my partner, came back and left a message and said, well, there's good news and bad news. The good news is they're going to let you do that. The bad news is you didn't tell me who you were. And Tom was just a regular lifelong cop. And I've been basically, my book that I wrote is called Dancing with the Feds, or it was at the time. And I'd had several interactions with the feds over the years. And he said, your friends down there at the camp and the feds, they didn't forget you, Tim, and they wanted you to know that they're still going to get you. And I went, well, I guess I'm still well known. But
we'll make sure to put a link to your book in our show. That's a pretty wild story. You mentioned your family, and you've got, it sounds like, a family full of cops, priests, and lawyers. But you also work directly with your daughter and your nephew in the cannabis business. What the heck is Thanksgiving like in your house?
It's a lot of fun. I didn't see my daughters for a while. I split up with my wife. I came up here from Santa Cruz, and Taylor came up to my youngest daughter, came up and started working with me, and over a number of years became my co-partner, co-producer in the Cup. And but my family, usually we go down and we're with my family down south, and they're not cannabis smokers, and so we're pretty straight at our Thanksgiving gatherings down in the Bay Area. Now I go up to Nikki and Swami's for some Thanksgivings when I don't go that way, and those are very cannabis filled events, and people eat a lot of food and smoke a lot, and we have a good time. And so I really enjoy those Thanksgiving dinners we've had at Nikki and Swami's. But my family down there, I got a brother-in-law, like I said, captain of Watsonville PD, and a lot of traditional workers and stuff. So, and a lot of kids around and stuff. So we're not smoking cannabis down those parties.
And how did you, this has been your life's career. How did you talk to your kids about it? What Dad did for a living when they were growing up?
We didn't. I'm an old school guy back then. You didn't include your wife, and if you were thinking right, you didn't include your wife or your partner in any of that. There were major prison sentences. Once they got the federal minimum mandatories, you're looking at 10, 20 years. Nobody knew what we did. I didn't talk on the phone. I remembered 500 phone numbers. I can't remember 10 now because they're all on speed dial or whatever. But back then, you didn't write anything down. I burned my books every day. I burned a new book. You lived a very, very quiet life. There were no big trucks. There were no living large. You just didn't do it because you were looking at up to 20 years in prison. And so you kept it quiet.
So That's awesome that you have your daughter helping you out with the cannabis, with everything, with the Emerald Cup. I remember when Arizona was first going medical, my dad and I explored like how we could try and get a license, see if we could open up a dispensary. And so I really feel like there definitely is a good opportunity there for like family businesses to come up in the cannabis industry. So it's really great always hearing these kinds of stories, and that's an awesome one. But I do want to jump back to the cup real quick. Can you talk to us about what you and your daughter have set up for this year's lineup? What are some things that attendees can expect to see while they're at the Emerald Cup this year?
The first year we were in Sonoma County, the budget was $440,000. This year the musical budget is over $550,000. The full budget's well over $3 million. We spent an extra $1 million last year on the show. I've got new partners. Red Light Management are my minority partners in the Cup, and they also own Star Hill Presents. These folks are the ones that discovered Dave Matthews. They have Fish, Country Star, Luke Bryant, all the EDM, electronic. They own parts of Outside Lands, Bonnaroo. They brought a world-class team in, and we've just upgraded every aspect of the show. When you start putting on a show, where 30,000 people are coming together for a weekend, you're running a city. And the ins and outs and the experience you want to give to people is very comfortable, and that was well beyond my expertise. And so we brought this team in. They have one of the largest talent agencies in the world. They've helped us book an incredible show. We've got Gogo Bordello coming in. We got Big Gigantic, Margot Price. We've got Protege. We've got a couple other major acts we're going to announce. A couple acts I can't announce yet because of other events they're doing, but I'm just really, really proud of the musical lineup we're coming in with. The speakers lineup, the same thing. We got Lori Ajax coming in, Jeffrey Lowenfels. We just have so many great speakers coming in this year. I'm just stepping back and I'm amazed at the quality of people coming in. Rick Doblin from MAPS. We're just really expanding it out. We have 3 stages. There's just so much for somebody to do when they come in there between the music and the speakers. We just have a lot going on. We're going to have even a larger consumption area this year. It's hard to believe. If you guys got there last year, I couldn't even believe it. I saw these tents and I thought we'd never fill them. The first year we went there, we had the little cow palace, and I thought we'd never fill that. And now we're 4 times as large. And I just stand back and it's just unbelievable. We've got over 500 vendors coming in. So along with that, go ahead.
No, I was going to say about the consumption side of it. So, there's a lot in the news about, these emerging lounges and the culture around that. And it seems, you've brought the Emerald Cup to be more than just a competition. It's a true festival in every sense of the word. And that obviously includes consumption. Can you, my original question was, can you consume at the Cup? But you can. So what was the process like getting that approved? And was last year the first year that you were able to do that?
Oh no, the Cup has been a consumption event ever since we started. We really
okay.
People don't realize we've never backed out. We've been a consumption, completely integrated event since day one. And, it's just an amazing thing to go in there and see all the action going on. We have 500 vendor booths. Last year we had 1,500 companies on a waiting list to come in.
Is there going to be a Tim Blake smoke experience where you can get in the dark room with the lights and everything and kind of get the feel how you used to do it?
You know what? That's funny. We should do that. They talk about that. We'll have a little Area 101. At Area 101, when you come up to my place and come off the highway, you see a life-size billboard that's hand-painted with the UFO landing in the forest saying, "Welcome to Area 101." And you come around right there, the corner, and I got a 1,500-pound Ganesh and a 6,000-pound Buddha and a life-size marble Christ. And it's about all religions coming together in peace and harmony, recognizing we're all praying to the same God. And so when you come to the old events at Area 101, you get this really incredible experience of like a very alternative lifestyle. And so we're recreating that at the Cup. One of the partners came up last year and he saw that and he said, "Why isn't this in Sonoma? All the altars and all the stuff that you have." And I said, because when we were first starting, it was radical enough to have cannabis. They started having Ganesh statues and Buddhas and stuff. I thought it'd be a little overwhelming. And so we didn't really bring that in. We kind of like downplayed it. But now we really are integrating that in there and into the whole event. And so, people are going to get much more of what I'm about, which is I've been meditating since I was 16 years old. I'm really more of a monk. I've been doing meditation for 45 years.
Wow. Before it was cool.
And so, yeah, for a long time. Yeah, I was, you guys are probably way too young, but Baba Ram Das was the really big kind of guru who came out with Be Here Now in the 70s. And Bhagwan Das was his partner, kind of the kid that went with him to India, and they came back and wrote a book. He wrote a book called Be Here Now, which was a huge bestseller, and Ram Dass is now an international name. I was up at UCSC like at 17 or 18, and they had a little meditation event, and there's only like 8 people, and I was sitting there meditating with Baba Ram Das and Bhagavan Das, and didn't even know who they were because they weren't famous yet. And then, of course, 6 months later, he dropped that book and became world renowned. And so I've been studying and following spirituality and UFOs and every form of spiritual aspect of our life since I was a kid. And so that's what Area 101 is, and that's what I am. And so I'm a really hardcore, organic, across the board person. I mean, you can't be you can't provide food at our event without being organic. We vet out all.
Okay, that's a stipulation in the contracts for the vendors and everyone. It has to be organic.
It has to be organic. We do a food buyout with the fairgrounds where we pay $2 for every attendee so that they don't open up their food vending and sell hot dogs and Twinkies and whatnot. I'm not against hot dogs. They just have to be organic. So we go to great lengths. All of our vendors are vetted out. And so Hazel, our sponsor vendor coordinator, goes through every vendor and goes back and finds out where they came from, who they are, and whether they fit with our demands and requests and stuff. So last year, like I said, we had 1,500 extra booths because of that, people come to the Cup and they know they're going to get quality products, quality food, a great experience. I used to go and pick up 100 couches from the Goodwill, and I'd go pick up 100 couches and drive them down there so people would have couches to sit on. And then we give them away afterwards to all the vendors and sponsors. And it was just something we did until they told me that there was kind of this whole thing with fire hazards and all the rest of it. You can't do that fun stuff anymore. But
once you get too big, all the rules come into play.
All of our decorations are organic. Everything you see there is organic.
That's amazing. So what we'll do is we'll put links to everything, how people can attend, where they can buy tickets, if they're a vendor, have them call Hazel. But I think what you're doing is great. I think, we're all really excited, for the upcoming Emerald Cup. It sounds like you've got an amazing lineup. So before we let you go, we do a segment every week called Puff Puff Pass, where we ask our guests to tell us quickly 2 things that they love about the industry and 1 thing they hate about the industry. So Puff Puff Pass, Tim.
Well, 2 things I love about the industry is the sense of community of us over the years. We're just a really tight-knit community that really look out for each other, and I just love that part of the community in the industry. And then the other part of it is just the inspiration. I'm a cancer survivor, and I'm really an evangelist for the medicinal side. And to see the inspiration coming to my uncle, to my families, to the whole world of what cannabis is doing, whether it's adult use, whether it's medicinal, that inspiration that I see from the relief or the happiness or the joy people get. I'm just so excited to be part of this industry. And maybe I throw a third one in there, which is I see at the Cup every year, is the quality of the packaging and the design and the attention people are putting into their brands and what they're doing. I'm just honored to be part of this community and to see all my fellow cultivators and product makers really stepping up and just doing an amazing job with delivering really incredible products. That's something else. What I don't like about the industry is the opposite, the sense that we're losing that community. Back in the old days, every outlaw, wanted their fellow outlaw to make it because we all could sell our products. So there was no competition. We just wanted everybody to make it. And now it's becoming kind of a dog eat dog, every man for themselves. People are, competitive with each other and they're kind of eyeing each other and it's just not quite that same. There's something about when everybody's an outlaw and it's us against them where it becomes very tight knit. It's a little different. Now it's becoming a capitalistic commercial marketplace. And I don't like that too much. And, I don't like that the large commercial players are taking over so quickly. It's really sad to see big business. I mean, that's what we are. We're a free enterprise capitalist society, so that's what we're going to be. But to see how quickly big business, and I'm not the tobacco industry, heck, it's everybody. It's the Canadians, everybody everywhere is just coming in, and it's going to make it, like I said, very hard for the small farmer, the small product maker to maintain and hold on to their way of life. And, you can't begrudge anybody, but, because that's what we did. We opened the business and they all came in, but, this is what we live in now. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, so yeah, it's definitely grown from like a grassroots efforts to more of this corporatized big business experience. Do you think there's still room for the little guy, or is that door already closed?
There is if they grow fine flower, or if they make an incredible product. Like we said, the highest end growing market in the spirits industry are the high end. The fastest growing, I should say, and it's all alcohol, small vineyards, craft breweries. And so I've been saying with the Cut Forever, you've got to stop thinking about selling to the East Coast and just making whatever you want because you can do it. You got to really realize that it's time to grow a fine flower and make a great product and really take pride in that and put your passion into it, because those people are always going to have a place in the market. Third gen, you can go down the list, aficionado, Eden Farms, all the winners of the Cup, all the people that year after year at the top, they're not going to have any problem. Okay. But if you're not putting that effort in there and thinking you're going to get by with an average product, there's no market for that. You can't even sell B grade anymore. You go out there, I'm a black market guy, so I can't do it anymore, but I talk to everybody and I know all the deals going on. And it doesn't matter whether it's Georgia or Pennsylvania or whatever, they don't want D grade, they want A grade OG. That's all they're buying. So if you don't grow A grade, where do you sell it? I mean, you got to crush it into oils and what, and then you're getting 200 a pound. So if you want to make it, you got to step up. And with the regenerative farming and sustainable and biodynamic that we're teaching, people are really embracing that. So what we are seeing is that people are getting the message, and they're really learning that when you do it biodynamically or completely organically with the right, with the right use of compost and teas and organic materials, your terpenes, your profiles, your flavors, your high is so much better, and people will get that. The one thing people have got, and they still want to go for the indoor in LA, but that's because they've been taught that. I mean, if we hadn't gone about this breech birth, there'd be no indoor. We'd all be outdoor. And when people start realizing that full sun outdoor really delivers a better high and a better medicinal effect, we'll have more and more of a chance. But it's an uphill battle. We're looking at it, and I mean, you're talking, 60 to 90% of the people probably won't make it.
Wow.
And it's going to be
yeah.
It is, but on the other hand, I feel that, but when you take that aside, which is true, absolutely, it hurts. Then you get to the point where look what's happening with cannabis worldwide. We're taking over this country. We're rolling across the world, Canada, Israel, Colombia, Mexico. We're impacting
Italy.
everybody.
I was just in Italy, and it's legal there.
And when people use cannabis, they think better, they eat better, they are better, they feel better, and we're a better world. So we're going to help the world reclaim itself with a peaceful revolution through cannabis. So overall, there's nowhere to go but forward.
What an awesome place to end on. Thank you so much, Tim.
Yeah, Tim, this is
I've got to say, if I can't get 1 minute, if I get 1 minute in there, we have 27 contests. We have 27 contests. We've gotten larger than ever. We've worked so hard with lobbyists and regulators to make this work. You've seen the problems with Chalice. You've seen what High Times has done. We're doing a completely legitimate contest. We're going to have a personal cultivation part, so people that are small can enter. We've added on hydrocarbon because that's now legal. I used to say that if as long as it was cans of butane and doing it in garages blowing each other up, but that's not the case. It's all legal now. So we're bringing in the hydrocarbon, adding that in. Go to the website. You're going to see 27 different contests. It's just amazing to start with a flowers contest, and now we're sitting there with 27 different contests. So come join us. We will definitely have that this year. It'll be bigger and better than ever.
Great. We look forward to it. And we'll include the links to everything that Tim talked about in our show notes. So, Tim, thank you so much again. This has been a real pleasure for us. We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Anytime.
Great. Thanks again to Tim Blake, the founder of the Emerald Cup. Find out more about them by visiting their website, theemeraldcup.com. They've got some great information there. Find out how to get a booth, find out how to submit, find out how to participate, or find out just how to attend. If you want to chat with us, you can always find us on Instagram and Twitter with the handle at KCSA_cannabis, as well as at our website at kcsa-cannabis.com, or feel free to drop us an email at greenrush@kcsa.com. And please don't forget to subscribe. We love it. Thank you guys so much. That's one take, Shay. One take.